Good morning, good evening, everyone. This is Luda Kopkina with GAI Insights. Welcome to Daily AI News, where we rate AI news essential, important, and optional, pointing to you to the most important trends that are happening right now. You can follow along at gaiinsights.com/articles. Please let us know what you think about what we discuss and whether you agree or disagree with our ratings. Okay, let's proceed to the first article, Ankash.
Sure, thanks, Luda. So the first one that we have for today comes from Amazon. So Amazon has launched a new AI foundation model to power its robotic fleet and and it has also deployed its 1 millionth robot.
Yeah, 1 million robots out there in their warehouses. This is a fascinating number. And they created yet another model to orchestrate their movement. Amanda, what did you think about this article and this news?
Um, yeah, I'm a little bit torn on this one because again, now we're getting into robotics a little bit, which is interesting. I feel like a lot of the articles we've been talking about focus more on multimodal and things like this. So that part of it I found interesting, but quite honestly, I don't know that there's a lot of depth in here for me to make it important. So I was more on the optional camp for this one.
Okay. Yeah. So more specifically, they built a model to orchestrate their movements around warehouses. Think about, like cars and intersections, and that's what's happening in the warehouses with all these robots. Some bringing really heavy loads. So it's a traffic orchestration problem that they solved. That's really cool. John, what did you think about this? This is Amanda's optional. What did you think?
Yeah, I was more in the important camp. I don't know, maybe the essential. I mean, think about to me, this got a couple of. First of all, it's just an amazing story. 1 millionth robot. Think about that for a minute. Just pause. Right, 1 million robots, and they have 3 kinds of robots here that they've done. The constant innovation, and it makes their robots 10% more effective, which is quite amazing. So I think that it's just spectacular when you step back and you look at it. So I think that's inspiring. The second thing is that I think there's an incredible message here for executives, which is, Amazon is on a different learning curve than other organizations, and catching that learning curve is going to be high near impossible if you're not involved in the use of AI and generative AI. And I think Amazon's a beautiful example of that. So for me, it was, at least important. And not only that, but Amazon's using this in their core. But you know what they're going to do? They're going to. Yes, I agree with Ram. The off factor is amazing. But the other thing is that think about AWS, and I think that Amazon is eyeing the selling of these kind of capabilities out to other organizations. So I think they're going to do with intelligence what they did with access to data. So for me, it's important. I could even be convinced essential.
Interesting. Okay, so we have a range here. Paul, where are you on this?
I'm going to extend the range more. I'm absolutely essential. This was a Wall Street Journal front page ad. It's 1 million robots. I think they have 1,000 fulfillment centers. It's about 700,000 to 1 million employees in these. So it's almost 1 robot per employee. And I think not only is it a wow factor, I think it's visually helping AI leaders and executives understand what the future is. So in war, we've seen humans working alongside drone robots. Here we have humans working alongside robots in warehouses, and we're starting the whole process certainly in the front office, particularly within customer service and coding. So I think it's absolutely, and I think even more over, the interesting thing to me is think about where will Amazon be 5 years from now? I think 5 years from now, they'll have 2 million robots and 20% less people here. So essential.
Paul, you said this was an ad. Was this an ad in the Wall Street Journal?
No, it's an article, Wall Street Journal article, page 1.
Gotcha. Yeah, the way I got into this, it came from the About Amazon site. So
yeah, no, correct. I'm just saying that Wall Street highlighted the 1 millionth robot.
Yes, remember, I am very much into robotics, actually grabbing the day very soon. So I was certainly bullish on this article because it's a really clear demonstration that it is happening, and it is happening en masse. It's not a toy anymore. It's really serious. And Amazon is leading the way and showing that they are really doing it.
Well,
Which is interesting in the article, they also show that they train the employees to take up with upskilling programs and take other jobs if they want to, and they show that there are more upskill opportunities and positions that are happening at the same time. So essential. Let's
well,
go.
but Luda, are you arguing they're going to hire more employees per package shipped?
I don't know about that, but what they're saying is that there is more jobs in developing these models to orchestrate the robots, to maintain them, develop them, and whatnot that they had before, and so there are new positions opening in that space. So I don't know per robot or per something whether this will be increased. Maybe temporarily.
Yeah. In the Wall Street Journal article, they had a stunning graph of how many packages shipped per employee for the last 10 years, and it's been a stunning growth here. So yeah, so maybe Luda, it's my new roles in these one areas and fewer roles in the manual picture.
Totally fewer roles. You don't need people to lift stuff or move stuff around. So for sure. Okay, it's essential. It is. Let's proceed.
Okay, the next one that we have for today is a technical report from Chai Discovery, and it is titled Zero Shot Antibody Design in a 24-well Plate.
Yes. John, this is interesting, and it certainly shows quite a bit of advancement in this particular space. What did you think?
Yeah, first of all, I don't know much about biology except the fact that I have some. But so I'm a bit out of my depth here. But it struck me as an important article, and certainly essential for anyone in life sciences. I already sent it to a couple of friends this morning on life sciences. The ability to do design of antibodies and other interventions in the body, and then to do in silico matching, to do in the modeling, and to have a success rate that used to be well below, it was like 0.1%, and now we're talking about success rates that are 10, 15, 30%, which is just amazing. So in terms of one of my children has multiple sclerosis, and this amazing autoimmune disease, and the ability here, could they create something that would actually be a cure? All they have right now is disease modifying drugs, and they don't have any disease reversing drugs. So I don't know. I was just amazed by this. I could follow only part of the science, but the efficacy of building a model deep in this domain. So for me, I was going to put it as important for two reasons. One, just kind of the miracle of what it's doing. And second, the notion of, as we get into different representation systems, I know that in language and images, a lot of times the large, wide models are as effective as the focused models, throughout different kinds of capabilities. But as we get into I think as we get into models built on other kinds of data, like the one we saw, another one on biologics before, that we're going to see higher performance, because I believe that the semantics created in the context of a completely different representation system are going to lead to higher performance in that domain. So as an example of that, and that would be important for everybody, material science, energy, and other things, even the Amazon thing. So I was going to give it important.
Okay. Important from John. Amanda, what did you think?
Yeah, this is a tough one. I mean, kind of like the last article, I like the message, but the thing is, I didn't feel like there was any meat in the article. I felt like it was very high level. This one, I feel like there's a ton of meat, but to Dr. John's point, I mean, most of it's over my head as well. So if we look at this from a standpoint of what is the message period, and the fact that we're making a lot of growth in the biotech space, for example, with this. And again, this stuff's all over my head as well. So like sequence diversity, structural capabilities, all these things that like are way over my head. So for that reason, to send this over to the AI leader and say, read this thing and actually dig into it, when yes, we all know we can use ChatGPT, feed it in, it'll spit something out. But the facts are, again, I think it's a very important development, especially if you're in the biotech or the medical area. But are they going to be able to sit there and not like doze off and read through this thing? So for me, that it's a tough rating, because again, the message I think is important, but I might put this as optional, just again for the way of having to read through this. It's rough. So, but I can be talked back up.
Okay, thanks, Amanda. So sounds like optional, but certainly important for biotech. Paul?
Yeah, I think we've seen a lot of these articles. It's essential for a particular vertical, so important.
Yeah. Okay.
That's definitely essential reading if you're in life sciences.
Yeah. Okay. Let me ask Ankaj. Ankaj, what do you think?
Luda, I think important for me as well, and like everybody mentioned, I don't have much understanding of the terms here, but seems like an important development for the field itself. So important for me.
Okay. Yeah, I was also in an important camp because I think the innovation here is zero shot. And so in the 24 slots of culture, you can come up with novel antibodies. That's, I think, the newness here with the methodology described. So important. Okay, let's proceed.
Okay, the next one that we have is a case study from OpenAI, which talks about how retail AI makes voice agent automation customizable and code-free with GPT-4o.
Yeah, if you could rate it, Ankash, I would appreciate it.
Sure, Luda. So this case study basically talks about this vendor Retail AI, which is using OpenAI's GPT-4o to power their platform, which is like a no-code AI native voice automation platform. So the case study has some good statistics, but uh, at the end of the day, it's a vendor using OpenAI's model to run their platform. So it's exactly not an enterprise case study, I would say, not a big enterprise case study. So maybe between optional and important, Luda.
Okay. Thank you, Ankash. What did you think, Paul?
Optional.
Optional.
Time, yeah.
Yeah. John?
Yeah, I was between optional and important. I mean, it's just so easy to do and everything. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of entrants in the field. I'm comfortable with either.
Okay. Amanda, we're going optional. Any disagreement?
No, I mean, just, to mention that there's this sort of full stack automation going on. So again, we're getting pretty deep into that space, more than just like a chatbot or something like this. So that's the only thing I would say that stands out, but I'm good with optional.
Yeah, I think we'll see a lot of innovation in this space. They're rethinking and putting it more to voice, but I think we'll see way more coming up as well. So optional it is. Let's proceed.
Okay, the next one that we have for today comes from Sakana AI, and they have launched a new research titled Inference Time Scaling and Collective Intelligence for Frontier AI.
Yeah, so this is an interesting article showing when you combine models and their unique capabilities and do it at runtime, you get amazing results. John, what did you think?
Yeah, I was going to give this between important and essential. I thought it was really cool, that they've come up with this combination of depth and breadth with their, modification of the Monte Carlo techniques here. And they're working the performance of these different mini models. The success rate measure is, a coding success rate measure that says with one shot, what percentage of ideas are actually executable. And you see it approaching 30% on the left-hand side here. So I thought that, this notion of meta intelligence, this is This is something that I think a lot of people, in my opinion, are not thinking enough about. And we saw the phenomenon in the digital world as things. If you think about, as reality, I think of it as Turing reality gets more and more digitally described. And if you've got good semantics between different levels of abstraction, what you see happening is incredible new primary demand for derivatives of that. That is a higher level. So you take for example, corn, the corn market. I don't know how big it is. So let's call it, if it's 5 billion, if the corn market's 5 billion, the amount of trading activity on derivatives of corn, that is corn futures, is larger than the 5 billion every day. And I think so. This notion of the relationship of levels of abstraction and what happens to volume goes up. So I look at this and say, wow, this is cool. We get performance when we do multimodals at a higher level of abstraction. And then this to me says incredible token explosion, because the if we can get increased performance as we begin to interoperate and go in different levels of abstraction, then this is going to just continue to grow. And also, if you go back to biomimicry and so forth, you look at the structure of the brain, it's kind of like this, right? Deep brain, higher brain, and evolution seems to, show that as well. So I think this is a very powerful idea, cool new algorithm, obviously performant, and so that's going to be important, maybe essential.
All right. Paul, where were you on this one?
Yeah, I had an everyday miracle on the lab front here. I agree a lot with John's comments. I just had it rated a little lower. Definitely amazing. And I do think John's comments about, what are we seeing? Where will we start seeing intelligence act on intelligence 24/7 is a really interesting trend here, but optional.
Yeah, I was also on optional. Amanda, what did you think?
Yeah, so to Dr. John's point about the Monte Carlo simulations and things like this, one thing I would say is it's discussing about this depth-wise search, right? So repeatedly sort of generating answers and things like this. Repeatedly refining them at first, this sequential refinement. Then this repeated sampling. The thing I would say to that, though, is it sounds pretty amazing, but the fact is when we're using ChatGPT every day, literally in front of us, it'll say, do you like option A or B? So yeah, it might not show us 20 that it's thinking about or whatever it's doing in the background. Again, if we don't work for OpenAI, we don't know exactly what it's generating at that point when it's showing us 2 of them. Is it doing exactly this anyway? So is this really that big of a breakthrough? I don't know, but that's an example of literally repeated sampling pretty much in front of our face. So with that being said, I think this is a little more optional for me too.
Okay. Sorry, John, going optional here. Optional it is.
I'm used to it.
Okay.
Genius, the lonely attribute.
Okay, let's proceed. Ankash, please.
Okay, the next one is a case study from LangChain, and it talks about how Exa built a web research multi-agent system with LangGraph and Langsmith.
Yeah, as the searches become more complex, LangGraph is actually maintaining contacts at a much deeper semantic level. What did you think about this, Amanda?
So I think this is really like a product announcement on what's going on there. It's looking at like token efficient methods, search snippet reasoning, and things like this. So it comes out with some things that might sound a little bit sophisticated if you're not digging into this day to day. But for me, this pretty much goes back to a product announcement. So I'm more optional.
Okay, optional from Amanda. John?
Yes, I was going to give it an optional as well. I thought it was interesting. I do think that this general architecture of the planner, the doer, and the the evaluator kind of structure is going to be important. But this is a very light article. Didn't tell us anything new really, so optional.
Okay, going optional. Paul, Ankash, any disagreements?
Agree.
Optional, Luda.
Okay, optional. Let's proceed to the last article. We're cruising through today.
Yes, the last one comes from CIO Dive, and it talks about how insurers are ramping up AI adoption, but they are doing it cautiously.
Right. So this is actually a summary of a longer report that was done by Evident, who were compiling the scores of insurance adoption along talent, innovation, leadership, transparency, and found that the top ones is AXA, Alliance, USAA, Intact Financial, and Manulife. And it talks about how Manulife implemented what they were doing. And I rated it as important to just show that how the industries in the crucible in our WINS framework are really affected, and what they're doing and what's actually happening. So from the time, a couple of years ago, this is a massive advancement. And I think this article highlights it. But I'm willing to go optional if people think that. What did you think, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, I think I want to click back. I mean, Evident, I forget the founder's name. She's done a great job of getting visibility into it. I think the methodology is a little light and much of a beauty contest. So I had it as optional. I think it's important if you're in these industries, just because it's getting to the board level. We've got 3 or 4 board members who do watch these beauty contest rankings, but it's so important.
So, Ankash, if you click on the full report, there's a big first page that shows the scroll down to this. Yeah, right here. Right. So it's 78 some parameters that they used to evaluate. So this is the rankings. Okay, optional for Paul. John?
Yeah, I was going to give an important. My understanding of their methodology is that they scrape the outside and then rank this. So this is one of those things that if you publish a bunch of stuff about yourself, you'll get a higher ranking, which I guess is a version of what our friend, People Action and others are doing as we go to the answer engines, which are more, the semantics are coming out more from published materials, not just search engine optimization. So that's where, Paul and I have seen the CEO present and so forth. And so I have a methodological problem with the way she's doing it, but it certainly gets a lot of attention. And I was going to give it important because because it proved we were right, which is that the industries that are high WINS intensive, words, images, numbers, and sounds, and highly digitized, and insurance will be in the crucible. And people talk about the insurance industry as conservative and not risk taking, which is kind of ironic because that's all they do they sell risk taking for a business, for a living. So I think it's more that they're conservative because they understand risk. And so here we have, ratings across the whole industry there. And there's a quote in there, which I think is right, which is AI and generative AI may have more of an impact on insurance than it has on other parts of financial services. And in fact, most of the things an insurer does can in fact be at least augmented, if not automated. So for that reason, that we have in industry, just as you said, Luda, in the crucible in our language, in the WINS framework, that is now we published that back in September 2023. So we're coming up on, basically 2 years later, and we predicted that you'd have massive change in 3 to 5 years. We're seeing that happen. So and in a sense of patting ourselves on the back, I'm going to give it important.
Yeah. Okay.
This is a show without modesty, Luda. We haven't had a lot of snark, but we do have lack of modesty.
It is true. The industry is really in the crucible, and they have to adopt those AI tools, and they realize this. Like Manulife, in the article, they talk about Manulife started with ML and data and putting it all together and getting people trained, right? And then when Gen AI came around, they were cautious, but they started doing it, right? So, and they in the top 5. Amanda, we are kind of optional, important. So what did you think? Yeah, sorry.
So Manulife is presenting at our event in September 29, 30. Yep.
As is Liberty Mutual.
Yeah. And Ron Hancock.
Yes. Amanda, break the tie, please.
Yeah, some of these articles, I'm all over the place with this because I feel like there's a lot of Captain Obvious in here, meaning it says property and casualty insurers, they're moving faster than life insurers, and then it literally says because of regulatory burdens and sensitive data constraints. So it's like, okay, that's kind of obvious if that happens, no matter the industry. And then there's this framework, 3 phases, proof of concept, basically invest in your infrastructure, and then pretty much move to generative AI at scale. Kind of Captain Obvious. Yeah, we kind of know this, and then at the end, it kind of wraps up with what you're discussing now about the non-technical staff, getting them up to speed and things like this. But my issue with that is I'm consistently seeing mixed messages out there. On one side, we don't want to hire in the new generation of computer scientists that have this undergrad and comp sci, and we want strategic leaders and those that can communicate and entrepreneurial spirit and all these things. But every time I look at a job description anymore for like a top executive, they still want you to have been able to build and deploy models, do all these technical things. So it's kind of like, who's in the organization that they're upskilling at this point at the leadership level? Because I'm seeing the opposite in everything that's being hired right now. So I feel like I'm extremely confused on this. So for all those points, I was optional.
Got it. All right. So Ankash, you're the last call here. Yes, Paul.
Yeah, after Ankash, I want to add one other comment.
Yes, Ankash.
Optional for me, Luda.
Optional. Okay. Yes, Paul, go ahead.
Another argument for important is that we're seeing this a lot. I think it's critical. Many board members, investors are asking us, where is their company in terms of the top quartile, bottom quartile? I had a conversation with someone at a very large mutual fund company. They are explicitly going middle of the road and being a very conservative one. We have other companies talking that they absolutely need to be and must be in the top quartile in the industry here. So I think even AI leader in the financial services, you need to know this. So important and for that reason.
Yeah, I was going important since I have the power of the chalk. Important it is because it's really shows a massive adoption. If you think about 23 to 25, this is unheard of actually. So and it's the whole industry moving. It's important to say that. Okay, so important it is as Ankash is compiling the scores. Any announcements, Paul and John, Amanda?
No, I think that John started making announcements in our conference. A lot of activity around that coming up in 90 days here. But insurance companies is one of them that we have a handful of CIOs and execs coming here, and I encourage people to go to gaiworld.com to learn more. It's going to be just a fabulous 2 days of learning and networking.
Yeah, and a logistics announcement here. We are not going to be on the 4th. We'll take a day off.
For the U.S. folks. Yeah, it's a U.S. holiday for people who don't know.
Yeah, U.S. holidays, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have, I'm sorry, John?
Yeah, just one other thing. Just wanted to make people aware. We're starting down a path of a concept we're calling the EI Nexus, which is energy and intelligence and how they come together. And we're putting together some material. We think that we have now an explosion of silicon-based intelligence, which is going to, we believe, consume more energy than the combination of the industrial and consumer revolution. We're starting to talk to some very people who are very deep in the energy business to understand what that trade-off is, because we think it's going to be one of the biggest drivers of economics and industrial policy around the world. So anyway, just for people interested in that, do reach out to us, and because we're just getting into that, and we think the silicon-based intelligence the consumption of silicon-based intelligence is going to be the greatest change in the ecosystem of humanity certainly since the Industrial Revolution, and from a planetary standpoint, maybe even all the way back to the Cambrian explosion.
Interesting. Thank you, John, for saying that. Okay, so today we have one essential about Amazon using robots and deploying the millionth robot out there, 2 importance and 3 optionals. Thank you, analysts, very much for your views. Thank you, participants, Paula, Ram, and everybody else. I really appreciate it, and we'll see you tomorrow.